Greetings, customizers. Welcome to the next adventure at Talking Hands Customs. To all my subscribers, thank you very much, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. In this series, we're going to talk about applying one vehicle scheme to another vehicle, so we're going to swap schemes. What does that mean? Well, quite simply, let's say you liked something, for example, like the Night Raven, and you think that something like a Firebat would look cool in those colors. Then you apply the Night Raven colors to the Firebat. In this case, the vehicle I've chosen is one I think that hasn't been done all that much. It is a scheme that I'm going to use on multiple projects because I love it. And it might be a little bit unique and maybe forgotten. And in my mind, this scheme is absolutely Cobra. I'm surprised a lot more of their vehicles weren't made in these colors. But again, that's just a matter of opinion, which kind of goes without saying. So without further ado, let's pop up what I'm talking about. The Cobra Viper Glider. I love these colors. Right off the cartoon, they look amazing. That two-tone camouflage is definitely where it's at. I love the way the red symbol stands out amongst the two camouflage colors. Now, if we look at the toy, the colors are a little different and the pattern's a little different. So in this case, I'm going to default to the Sunbow cartoon colors, and I'm going to apply those to the Firebat. So maybe you can picture that, but in my mind, I think that's going to look really fantastic. I don't see many custom Firebats out there, but in this case, I think that the two-tone camouflage with the nice red Cobra symbol on it will really look good on the shelf. And maybe it's from a Cobra Terrordrome or whatever, a Cobra base that's in the mountains somewhere. Doesn't matter, you know, the imagination is limitless really when you think about it. So that's what we're going to do. For this particular Firebat, for those of you who haven't seen my other tutorials on other themes using the Firebat, this thing is an accident waiting to happen. I'm doing it again because I'm a glutton for punishment, but in this case, so I've disassembled it as much as I dare to. So as you can tell, we'll have to be careful with our paint apps in the wing folds while trying to maintain functionality. And particular to this Firebat, the wings were installed backwards. That's right. So the riveted surface is on the inside with that nice big space for a decal or sticker, and they're backwards. The good thing about the scheme I've chosen is that I will be able to distract the eye away from that through the use of camouflage, almost like the way it's supposed to work. The other thing I have, the reason why I chose this scheme is I wanted to do a Firebat with a nice big Cobra emblem right here. It's got this nice big open flat spot. There's no panel lines, nothing to worry about. And when I was thinking about doing a Sunbow version of the Firebat, I could have sworn I saw one there. There's one in the Marvel comic. It's not as big, but it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes the memory plays tricks on us. So in this case, by doing the Viper colors, I happen to have these nice big Cobra emblems, and with a rough measurement, which is my favorite as you may know by now, that will look amazing on there. So picture the two-tone camouflage with that nice big red Cobra symbol there. What I'm gonna have to do though is trace out this circle and make a black mask. And well, I'm saying it's black right now, we'll get into that in a bit. To make a dark circle behind this emblem to make it look just like the cartoon. So a little bit of crafting, but we've done some masking before. It's either a mask or a stencil depending on your point of view. So without further ado, let's get this primed up. In this case, the colors I'm going to use for now, after looking at it, let's talk about the black. I don't think the black is really black. Someone could say, well, yeah, they just used black. They didn't do anything fancy on the cartoon. Yeah, I got it. But when you look at it on the television screen, especially old CRT screens, it's not like a solid black. And we talked about how there's, you know, warm blacks and cold blacks. Well, after doing some color testing, the cold black is too harsh and the warm black is still too dark. So I'm actually going to default right now to one of my favorite Dreadnought colors, which is Dark Sea Blue by Model Master. It's called Matte Sea Blue, I think, by Vallejo. I found the last few jars of this. It's now discontinued. But the Matte Sea Blue, as seen on a World War II airplane model, looks, in my mind, just the same. So you can carry on with that if you wish. The reason why I'm starting off with this is that when you compare the two together, it gets the right contrast. It's showing a little light on the camera here because the light's bouncing off the jar and everything, but when you look inside the colors there, I think that's going to be what we want to do. Worst case, if I test it on the toy itself and I don't like it, I will divert to Vallejo Primer Black because it is a warm black, maybe even a warmer black than that, trying to stay away from the grayer side of that spectrum. I know that sounds like a lot, but really when you think about it, I'm just trying to find the warmest black possible to ease that harshness of using a cold black. This color here is Citadel Layer Techless Blue, and it almost looks like Cobra Commander's blue in there, doesn't it? But yeah, so that's the nice light blue I'm going for. In some pictures of some versions of the Viper glider, the blue is a little bit darker, but I really want that nice contrast. And in my paint test, the light blue and the super dark blue seems to have provided that. So always with the caveat that I can change my mind throughout the process, as can you. Let's begin with getting this thing primed up, and I will be using white primer this time. Normally I use black primer, as you've seen, but I want to preserve and make this color go on with as little effort as possible, which means bright background. So let me get that done up for you, and then we'll get down to applying the main colors. Okay, and I've primed it up and added the base color here, and now what I'm doing is I've reassembled a good portion of the vehicle, and I'm now going to use Vallejo liquid mask to mask off the areas I want to stay blue. If you haven't seen the previous tutorial series where I use this stuff, basically what it is it's a liquid gum, so it's kind of got the consistency of milk, and then I'll brush it on to where I want it to go. And then it will dry and create a rubbery barrier between the paint and the outside world, and it'll keep paint off, and then I just rub it all off and it will reveal our two-tone camouflage. So now I just have to get an appropriate brush, and I will use a wide brush. The good thing about this is that it basically applies like a paint, so you can apply it as finely or as thickly as you want. As far as depth of it goes, I like to apply it rather thickly, just because it's easier to take off. If you put on a very fine coverage, then sometimes it can be a little bit annoying to try and remove. So that's the size of that. There we go. This is a nice, I think it's a synthetic brush. Doesn't really matter what you use. I like this one because it's nice and soft. I'll have probably another narrow brush if I need it on standby. In the meantime, you just kind of load your brush up with it and paint it on. So now we want to make sure that we select a pattern that will look good, and we don't want the darker color to be overly dominating. So in this case, yeah, that's what we're looking out for. And it does tend to dry mostly clear. I'll say that, that's my caveat. And the trick with this stuff is that you want to have smooth edges. You want to have smooth edges. You can always touch up your camouflage later with a brush, which will quite honestly happen more often than not. But if we can minimize those touch-ups, it saves time. And once it becomes tacky, it will start to stick to itself, so you'll have to be careful of that, or at least aware of that. I wouldn't say careful, but you'll have to be aware of that. And sometimes you'll notice that when you put this stuff on, or when you're making a camouflage scheme, some patterns will just make sense, or some camouflage splotches, an individual piece of camouflage will make sense, or it won't. In which case, just wait for this stuff to dry. You can, again, rub it off and then start again. Oh, that's going to be a nice shape. So that part there is going to be the darker color. And I think that's going to look fantastic. I'm being fairly liberal with this stuff. It does have a bit of an odor to it. It's technically non-toxic, but don't make this the next Tide Pod challenge either, please. I already know. I'm going pretty quick here because I've been thinking about this for a while, but be deliberate, take your time. This stuff shouldn't stay on here for a week. The bottle says about an hour, but you got a little bit, maybe a little bit more playtime than that. And if you're unsure, just take the brush off the surface and then think about it and then put it back on. There we go. See, there's a corner right there. You see that in the bottom? I'm going to round that out. There's going to be another spot of black paint there. Right now I'm just establishing the camouflage base. The background for those large stickers I'm going to do separately with masking tape. Because unlike Copernicus, I cannot paint a perfect circle. I'm just going to sneak into the back end here, so to speak. Let's connect those two like that. It's just good. Now you're dealing with multiple surfaces here, vertical and horizontal, so just be aware that this stuff runs. There's our pattern coming along just nicely. You don't have to go from one splotch right onto the next. You could stop, go to another space, and then come back. That might help you figure out your spacing for your splotches. Oh, isn't that fancy? That was curved like that, so we're good to go there. I'm also trying to put the pattern so that way I'm not creating any paint traps for myself. I'm trying to minimize overspray, if not eliminate it completely. But who knows, right? Who knows? I'm going to curve off this bit here. That's a little bit better there. And it will stick to your fingers. There we go. Sometimes it's an interesting thing when you're trying to make a pattern that is random and smooth and whatever, and you end up kind of going all the way across the model and going, oh, that kind of works out, doesn't it? Like I just stopped myself right there, and that's a natural place to stop. So great success. Great success. probably hate myself for masking that off. Getting the liquid in the joint there, but we'll figure that out later. And when in doubt, if you really don't know how to start one of these patterns off, just do an S-curve and see what happens. Go from there. Just keep it simple. All right? It's supposed to be fun, not stressful. It's supposed to be anyway. I think we all know that even sometimes fun things become stressful. I'm running out of places to hold this thing. So let's get a nice... Oh, that's gonna look cool. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's get a little bit more oomph right there. There it is. Right. And we're gonna go like that. Oh, that's gonna look cool. Gonna look cool. All right. Yeah, you can see right there at the edge of my brush, a little bit of it dried up, and I rubbed that with my finger, so you can see it comes off like a gum. And I think in the artist world, it's called artist's gum. I'd say the disadvantage to this stuff is that it translates every little brush stroke. So if you get a little bit of a jagged edge in there and it dries, it will absolutely come through. In which case, you just touch it up with your brush. It's not a huge deal. But, well, anyway, there it is. So that's going to be blue. That's going to be black. So that's going to be blue. There you go. If you ever get stuck, go back to where you know you have a blue part and then go, okay, if that's blue, then that's that color. That's blue, that's that color. Sometimes it happens. So anyway, you get the gist of it there. It's going to take me a while to get this finished up, so we'll just zip forward to the finished product. And now we've got the masking all dried up here, so you can see where it's shiny and glossy there. That's the dried liquid mask, and it's a little thicker in some places, which is fine. It's not interrupting with my pattern at all, so now it's time to spray on. The color I'm going to be using for my black is going to be a Model Master color. It's available from multiple companies. If you haven't seen any of my other episodes, this paint is discontinued, so if you can find it, grab it, but there are other companies that make it. So this color is called Aircraft Interior Black, and it's a softer black. It's not a cold, like pure black. It's got a little bit of a gray undertone to it. But just the tiniest bit. In looking at my smorgasbord of blacks all the way from a pure black to a gray black, it's kind of somewhere in the middle there, maybe a little bit onto the right side towards the gray. But in trying some of the grayer blacks, the contrast wasn't what I was looking for. And I found that I was shying away from the darker blacks. And really, at the end of the day, that's exactly what I want to put on here. So without further ado, let's begin. And there we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that sit for a bit, both physically to dry and mentally to see if that's exactly the contrast I'm looking for. And I would say that so far I'm quite happy with it. But time will tell. So that's all there is to it. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to skip forward again, and I'll get all the putty removed, or the the liquid mask removed, and show you the final result of the initial paint application. Here's another problem with this particular vehicle I'm customizing. We've done tinting canopies before, but here, unfortunately, as part of my original design, I was going to leave the canopy clear, but the original owner, let's say, and you can just make it out on the camera there because I've already started the process, but you can see some discoloration there, and there's a little bit up here because they had placed 4 stickers on the canopy. And the canopy itself was scratched quite badly. I contemplated dipping it and then in floor polish and then painting it and then dipping it again. But in this case, what I'm going to do is the other way that you can fix up a canopy, and that's with sanding and polishing it. So it looks really bad right now, but that's just part of the process. So it's a bit of an intimidating thing to do because you see it's like, well, I don't want to make it any worse, but you have to make it worse before you can make it better. So I've just been working on this, and it's covered in all of these scratches. I took Windex to it, soap, Goo Gone, all that stuff, and this discoloration goes beyond any sort of easily repairable problem. So what's likely going to have to happen is I'm going to have to tint this a color, and I can't decide which color just yet. So right now I'm doing the physical labor on the canopy while paint cures on the Firebat itself, and then I'm going to see what I can do to restore this canopy. And like I said, I've done it a couple of times now, so I'm comfortable with it. But the first time you ever try and put sandpaper or anything like that onto a canopy, it's very like, oh my God! But it's, I promise you that if you respect the process, that it'll work. I'm not saying that this will get rid of all the damage on this canopy. What I'm doing is I'm putting in the effort now to see if maybe that tinting is maybe in the super top layer of the plastic, like the very upper layer of the plastic, and that by removing that upper layer through sanding, that not only will I fix a lot of these deeper scratches, that maybe that discoloration will disappear, and then I can not worry about choosing a color about my tinting because I won't have to tint it. So yeah, and you might wonder, okay, well, why don't you just buy a replacement canopy? Yeah, well, I checked, and I try and keep my finger on the pulse of the cost of parts, especially when talking about 3D printing substitutes or scratch building substitutes or whatever, and $40. I cannot scratch build one of these. I don't have that skill set. And yeah, I'm not paying $40 for a canopy. So I'd rather alter my design a little bit and tint it than spend any other money. The only problem is that in my consideration, my pre-visualization, like I said, I wasn't going to tint the canopy. And with the Viper glider camouflage on this vehicle, I don't want to take away from the focal point of it, which is that nice big red cobra symbol with the dark background. I'd either like to complement it or make the canopy not even really all that noticeable in its color. So it becomes a design choice because I thought about blue, and then I thought about black, and then red was the color that first popped into my mind, but I don't know what that's going to look like with everything else. It might actually give it a nice addition. I don't want to say a pop because right now the red of the Cobra symbol is supposed to be the pop, and I don't want to diminish that. But anyway, those are the considerations I'm going through right now. And with any custom you do, you'll have to make those decisions. And it certainly helps that if you do things out of order, like I would have done the canopy last, but by working on this physical damage now, it gives me that time to really just contemplate what I'm going to do next. So let's see what this is doing here. I started off with a 3200 grit sanding pad. It is on the lighter side of things, but let's see what's going on here. It's starting to do the work on it. You can see there the way the light catches it, the scratches. Some of them are super deep. I don't know if somebody tried to treat this canopy after, because the outside felt much different than the inside. But yeah, and so far it's not doing too much to those different color, different discoloration. So I'm going to do something super bold here. And I'm going to go with a slightly heavier grit and see what happens. This is 220, so it's really a significant jump up from 3200, but it'll make sense later. I even hit this thing with Windex to try and see if that was a more stringent product to get rid of some of this scoring, if you will. But no, it just wasn't working. So, and the thing with a part like this is you can see how thick it is, right? That's a nice thick part. It's very strong. So we're not too worried about sanding all the way through it. We have lots of room to work, if you'll pardon the expression. And there you go. Actually, see, by doing this, it's actually highlighting. You can see there the circle, the two squares, rectangles, whatever, and then there's that little bit of funky stuff up here. So it does seem very bad, right? It's like, oh my God, look how bad it's, I mean, that's horrible. But it's part of the process. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm going to keep sanding off screen here, and we'll carry on with the rest of the project. And here we go with the finished product. In clear coating this with a flat first, it pushed my original black color all the way over to gray. Way more than I thought it would. So I actually ended up painting over all the black with Citadel Air Abaddon Black. Let's get that into focus. There we go. And I just did that with a brush. And because it was a dark gray, that this color went over in basically one coat. Some places two, not a big deal. Used the Mission Models Semi-Gloss Clear after the flat coat and the repairs, and here you have it. So then of course I went ahead and I finished the canopy and the sticker, and this is what you get. So there's the big sticker there, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this camouflage, other than the fact that in my G.I. Joe world, this is what Cobra camouflage looks like. It's just the blue and the black. When I saw the hang glider as a kid, it was like, okay, that's Cobra. And here's the end result for the canopy. So that's got one coat of Future. I might put another one on the inside of the surface, but you saw me sanding it and how brutal it looked, and there's the finished product. So it does take work. There's no way around it. I would say maybe about an hour of actual sanding time, give or take. That may sound like a lot. Your arms will be sore, but quite honestly, it's worth it. Could you paint the canopy a solid color and just say, well, you know, there it is? Of course you could. Of course you can. It's your custom. Do what you like. But the reason why it's worth restoring a canopy is because you can put a figure inside and see it, right? And, well, you know, it's just one of the other things you can do, right? There's always options. Always options. The other thing I did too is I tweaked this camouflage splotch here a little bit. It was too symmetrical, so I messed around with it until I got something asymmetrical. And here you have the Viper glider scheme on a Firebat. I love this thing. I think it looks fantastic. And well, what's the deal? So the deal is that you don't need to put. Well, first off, you can rejuvenate a vehicle with another vehicle's paint scheme. Bottom line. Do you have to do air vehicle on an air vehicle and a boat on a boat and all that stuff? So could I have done this camouflage scheme on a Mobat, for example? Absolutely. Absolutely. The Firebat was just the next one in the queue, and that's the one that I did. So that's what I like about it. What's the other point of doing this? Well, I mean, you can come up with anything you want, right? That's the whole point. It's use your imagination. It's G.I. Joe. That's what I love about it. But let's say you want to make a regional Cobra team, so all these guys are on the coast of some secret island or Cobra Island or whatever. Then you give them all the same camouflage. It's you know, water camouflage, whatever you like. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And speaking of camouflage, there is a tutorial, if you haven't seen it, on how to do camouflage. But one of the other tips for doing good camouflage, if you look at this going, yeah, but every time I do camouflage, I just can't get it right. It's balance. It's balance, and my little trick is I leave the tips the lighter color. I've done tips in the dark color, and I don't know what it is, but it just kind of looks off to me. So if you're really stuck, let's say you take the fin here, for example, do a stripe on the middle, but leave the tip the original light color. See here on the fin too, I've done that, where it's just the bottom has a little stripe on it, and then the top is the lighter color. Try that. And if you don't believe me, look at a lot of camouflage schemes and you'll see where the lighter colors apply, that a lot of the times it's done in that regard. It doesn't mean you have to follow it all the time either. If you want to get fancy, most of my tips are unpainted, so to speak, but that one is, right? In which case it creates that balance through not looking the same, unlike down here, right? But no one's going to see that. So another version, or another example, excuse me, of balance is the fact that you got this nice big black splotch here that kind of spreads out this way. Well, now I've got a blue one that goes that way. Don't think too much about it, because that's what screws it up. Just flow with it, and then that's it. So we've got like the big black here, big patch of black behind the Cobra symbol here, but then we got a nice big patch of blue right beside it, which balances it out. Okay, so that's how that's done. It's easier than you think. It seems complex. You may think that you don't know how to do it, but you absolutely do. And will it take practice like everything else, right? But if you go in through that mindset of balance, color balance, then you'd be surprised. And it's not something where, don't think of camouflage as, okay, I'll just slap some paint here, 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 and look, it's camouflage. No, take your time, be a little deliberate, right? There's no rush, and you will be happy with the results. There's not much else to this project. I don't have weapons for it as of yet. If I do, they'll be probably painted the light blue color just to make it a little fun, because this is the Viper scheme off of the cartoon, not the actual toy itself. So this could almost be a combo thing. I took the Viper scheme from the cartoon and put it on a Firebat. And we'll talk about that in a future video where you have a multifaceted idea that you're trying to communicate onto your custom. Because as always, there's stuff to think about. So that's the size of this project. So let's do the spinny table thing for the final reveal. I want to thank all my subscribers for watching, and all the newcomers. Welcome to Talking Hands Customs. This is how we roll. This is what goes on here, crazy stuff like this. So if you like it, please give a like and subscribe. So in the meantime, I hope all your projects are going very well. Don't forget to smile while you're doing it too. And in the meantime, be safe and have fun.